we're back. Football is here, and this weekend was enough to make us forget that summer is over.
It felt like football weather, though, right?
It
was like that crispness
in the air. There was upsets in the air, for sure. Obviously, Maggie, Robin with you. Pete Mundo here to talk about what we saw in the world of college football. The results shocking in many ways. Obviously, Maryland over Texas. A&M blows that 34-point lead to UCLA. Howard, led by Cam Newton's little brother, pulls the stunner over UNLV. Baylor also loses to Liberty, but that's not where we have to start today, Pete. It was actually with a big injury, and that is DeAndre Francois. He goes down for Florida State. Is the season over?
No, Florida State can still win the ACC. They can still get into the college football playoff. We talked over the last couple of weeks about how a two-loss team, I believe this is the year they're going to get in. So Florida State still has a top 10 defense in college football. There's no doubt about that. Now you have James Blackman coming in to play quarterback. A freshman, don't know what he's all about, but you have a good running game with Cam Akers, also a freshman. If the offense can just do enough and let the defense carry that team, they lose a game from here on out. They have 2 losses. They still win the ACC. I don't think this season is over for the Seminoles.
One of the other big stories, Texas A&M blowing a 34-point lead to UCLA. Obviously, some not happy about that. A region actually weighed in, an A&M region, calling for Kevin Sumlin's job, saying the team was outcoached despite playing better than their opponent over the weekend. You had predicted last week, I believe, that there would be a coach ousted by Halloween. Is it going to be Sumlin?
Well, I was worried that he was going to get Lane Kiffin the other night on the way home on the tarmac. I was getting nervous about it, but he made it to this week, and now from here on out, you know, with Kevin Sumlin, it's the region calls him out before the season. It was the AD saying he's got to win. That was as bad a week 1 as you could have asked for if you're an anti-Kevin Sumlin guy. So now from here on out, it's like, how does the SEC schedule go? They have 2 layup games the next 2 weeks, and then it's SEC play Arkansas, South Carolina, Bama, Florida. Not easy, but if he can go 2-2, I think he's safe till the end of the season and see how it rides out. The problem for A&M is usually it's a hot start and then faltering down the stretch. If this is a sign of how this year's going to go, I said Halloween, he may not make it to conference play.
Of course, on one side, it's an Aggies loss, but on the flip side, it's a UCLA win. And Josh Rosen performed incredibly well in the fourth quarter. He is our adrenaline performer, presented by Toyota. Let's go places. You see those 4 touchdowns all came in the fourth quarter. Was Rosen, though, the most impressive quarterback you saw this weekend, Pete?
Rosen was great in the second half, especially that fourth quarter, but it was really Josh Jackson, Virginia Tech, who went up against Rosen in that primetime matchup. It was Virginia Tech, West Virginia, and then the UCLA A&M game. Jackson's a guy who came in with not a lot of hype, taking over a Virginia Tech team that won the ACC Coastal last year, but this year was like, okay, what's Jackson going to be like? What's he going to be all about? And he went into a big-time spot against a good West Virginia team, a major atmosphere at FedEx Field, dual-threat guy, and really carried that team to victory. The first half was more of a defensive battle. The second half, West Virginia got the offense going, and Jackson had to keep up, and he did that really well as a redshirt freshman. So for me, he was the most impressive quarterback I saw in week 1 of the college football season.
How about the Heisman Trophy race? Obviously, it's very early, but did anyone from the opening weekend enter the race that you didn't think was going to be there?
Well, someone I didn't think that was going to be at the top of that list that now is the guy we just mentioned, Josh Rosen, because he had that Heisman moment, right? We always talk about what is that go-to Heisman moment. He had it week 1, the fake spike touchdown, game-winning touchdown pass. Gus Johnson on the call that gives it a little more emphasis. So I really think that Rosen, who was 10th or 11th in the preseason odds I was looking at for Heisman, he's now in most people's probably top 4 and 5 just based on that one game alone.
We were waiting for him also to show a lot of that passion, right? That's a lot of the narrative around him. People wondered if he actually liked football at all. Showed a lot in that comeback win. Let's just fast forward for a moment, because you think that you have all these cupcakes coming up for week 2 of the season, but it's not true for Ohio State. They're going to play Oklahoma. We saw the Buckeyes, though, struggle for about 3 quarters against Indiana. Are you expecting them to continue to struggle?
No. That game against Indiana was a perfect storm for Ohio State to go into and have some struggles off the top, which they did. They're bringing in a whole new secondary. It's Indiana's Super Bowl, essentially. It's the biggest opener they've ever had in the history of that program. It felt like College Game Day was there. It all set up for Ohio State to come out and be kind of slow out of the gates, and they were. But they got back on track in the second half. Now they're home against an Oklahoma team that also is figuring out some things. They just lost Jordan Parker in their secondary, a big guy who was supposed to really lead a young group of cornerbacks. So with that loss combined with the fact that Oklahoma is figuring out who their top wide receivers are going to be, I think Ohio State is in a very good spot heading into this game on Saturday night.
And that's the one we're looking forward to this week. Okay, let's rewind. Go back to some other injuries that unfortunately we saw over the weekend. It came in a win, but Alabama does lose two of their linebackers, Terrell Lewis and Christian Miller, for the season. Now, we always take Alabama's success for granted, but are they going to feel these two injuries?
Well, there's two reasons I don't think they will. First off, the SEC, I have to see a team that can beat Alabama before I say two injuries are going to affect them. Second, the two guys that are replacing Mack Wilson and Dylan Moses are two top 5 picks or top 5 recruits from the past couple of years. So you know Nick Saban has the talent to replace these guys. I haven't seen them play. Unless you're covering Alabama every day, you haven't seen these guys play. But you know that they're 5-star guys that can step in, and Saban's going to have them ready. So combine the fact that the SEC, I believe, is having a down year with the fact that Nick Saban just plug-and-play guys, I think it's going to be fine for them.
Okay, let's finish off with a couple quarterbacks here because we're not sure if our eyes are deceiving us or maybe it's just week one. We're trying to figure things out. Your biggest takeaway from Sam Darnold at USC was what?
Sam Darnold, we talked about, I believe it was a couple weeks ago. I wasn't buying the Sam Darnold hype. 2 tackles missing and figuring out who his wide receivers were. A couple of guys dropped passes over the weekend, and he didn't look entirely comfortable. And now he's got to play Stanford in week 2. You go from Western Michigan to Stanford, that's not easy. So we're going to find out a lot about Sam Darnold in this second game. If all the hype from the offseason, all the hype from the Rose Bowl was worth it, but I think
You're saying no. You're saying no.
Inconsistency was really my concern with Sam Darnold in week 1.
Okay, what about Kelly Bryant from Clemson? Steps in, looks like he's going to be able to guide this offense just like Deshaun Watson did.
Got to see more of it. Kent State, fine, all well and good. Auburn this week, that'll really tell more of the story. He looked great, but once again, I got to see it against a real opponent before I'm buying the Kelly Bryant hype, although he was absolutely fantastic.
Okay, so we're taking a wait-and-see approach after just week 1. Pete,
it does seem very pragmatic.
It does. It seems smart, actually. Pete Mundo, really appreciate you.
Anytime, guys.
The Seattle Seahawks acquired Sheldon Richardson from the Jets, bolstering an already strong front 7. Is their defense back to a dominant enough status now where you could consider them Super Bowl favorites?
Yeah, Peter King has picked them to be his representative from the NFC in the Super Bowl, Patriots for the AFC. The defense is going to be unbelievable. This is the 8th player added to that defense that has at least one Pro Bowl appearance. My issue with the Seahawks is that all of the same things that they had to deal with last year that made them not a Super Bowl team are the exact same things they're dealing with this year. I don't think they did enough to help the offensive line already. Seeing injuries on that line, they added Luke Joeckel as a free agent. I don't know if that's going to be enough to protect Russell Wilson. And in terms of the run game, all of their running backs have issues. Eddie Lacy ended last year's season-ending injury. Thomas Rawls has had major injuries. C.J. Prosise, major injuries. All of the same warts that they had a season ago are still here.
And when you talk about the Patriots, obviously what they've done is not typical, right? We generally don't see teams on top for that long in the NFL. So if the Seahawks follow a more regular, traditional pattern, at some point they're not going to be in this conversation. It's just really tough to dismiss them when you see who they have defensively. And I'm still a big believer in Russell Wilson on the offensive side.
I am too, and I think the defense is going to be able to make up for any kind of deficiencies that the offense may have. But look at the way that the NFL is going. And I know defenses are still the thing, and you can win a Super Bowl with one. We're going to talk to Von Miller in a moment. He'll tell us exactly how you can win a Super Bowl with a defense. But there is something to be said about you have to look at the representatives from the NFC who have been going to the Super Bowls the last few years. I mean, you're talking about Atlanta. They were an all-timer in terms of great offenses before they completely crapped out against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. You're talking about that Carolina season. I mean, that was a dynamic offense. You need to be multiple. You need to be able to have several looks. And we just remember how good Seattle was when they had a run game with Marshawn Lynch. It's such a key.
It does feel like in the NFL now, whoever has the ball last wins, right? That's how it feels.
Even in the NFC, which, listen, I understand last year it took a while for the Green Bay Packers to get going. We're not sure what the Cowboys are going to be this year. The Giants, who knows? The NFC is open, wide open, in my opinion. I think Seattle can reach out and grab it, but they have to hope that Russell Wilson can remain injury-free all year long. And behind that offensive line, it's not a guarantee I think we can make. You remember after the Super Bowl, when everyone thought that Bill Belichick was going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, no, they've kept Jimmy G, but traded third-stringer Jacoby Brissett for Colts wide receiver Philip Dorsett. All right, the best Patriots offense of the Belichick-Brady partnership, could you say it's going to be this year?
No, I'll say it's not going to be this year. I can't say it after the Edelman injury. Gronkowski's situation is always a little suspect in recent years. I can't doubt the Patriots on the football field. I mean, that's basically impossible to do. They went, 3-1 without Tom Brady. Brissett was the quarterback for one of those games. But that doesn't mean they're going to be as prolific as they've been at other times. And I don't see them having the top offense of that era.
So they've had 3 years where they've had the number one offense in terms of points scored, 07, 2010, 2012. That 07 team, you remember the 50 touchdowns that Brady threw, and Randy Moss on that team only tossed 8 interceptions. I'm looking back, though, over some of the offensive weapons that they had in 2010, 2012. You're talking about the Edelmans, the Welkers, Gronk and Hernandez when they were together. You toss in a little, Ridley, and, of course, Shane Vereen. And then, you have all these other issues with Hernandez now, unfortunately, is passed away. And then you have, the team changing a little bit. Look at this year, though, right? Brandon Cooks, Chris Hogan, Malcolm Mitchell. Now you bring in Dorsett. You do have Gronk. You have Deion Lewis, Burkhead, Devlin, James White, Mike Gillislee. It's just there's so many options here. I don't feel like the Patriots have ever had this kind of depth.
But part of that speaks to what the Patriots do, right? Some of those names, if we were doing this last year, you wouldn't have heard of. Now they're names. Same thing could occur this year. Doesn't mean they're going to be at their best.
Okay, let's welcome in Super Bowl MVP Von Miller. He joins us on behalf of Old Spice and their new Invisible
like when it's
spray.
like 5, you can get.
Hey, Von, can you hear me?
It's like, howdy, how's it going? Yeah,
hey, we're here.
You guys.
Hi, I'm not sure if you were just listening into our conversation, but we just were talking about the Seattle Seahawks adding Sheldon Richardson to their defense. And then we were talking about the Patriots, and they're adding Philip Dorsett to their offense. Who just made the better move of those two teams?
I think the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Seattle Seahawks with Sheldon Richardson and Mike Bennett, and then you got KJ Wright. Of course, the Legion of Boom, Cliff Averill, the list goes on with the type of players they got over there, Cassius Marsh. So, to have that type of defense over there, I feel like the Seahawks definitely made the better move.
I mean, listen, you can answer this question because you are not playing the Seahawks this year. Who's got the better defense, you guys or those guys?
Of course, the Denver Broncos. We got the no-fly zone. The best secondary in the National Football League. We're missing, T.J. Ward. It was a, unfortunate decision, but, those type of decisions are going to, happen to, 95% of us. So it's just, unfortunate and beautiful part of the game. We got, Justin Simmons and Will Parks, opportunity to go out there and prove themselves. So I think we'll be great on defense.
Well, considering the greatness of yourself on defense, that always helps, but you haven't won Defensive Player of the Year. Khalil Mack did take it last year. Is this the year that you're going to get it?
I feel like every year, is my year to get it. Every year is our year to win a Super Bowl. Last year I missed out on a Defensive Player of the Year award by 1 vote. And, with the offseason that I had last year, I didn't really have a chance to, work out or do anything. Khalil had an amazing year. He's a dominant player. He's probably one of the most dominant players in the National Football League. But I feel like, with the type of offseason that I had this year, being able to work out, staying in one spot, being in OTAs, I feel like I have a great jump on this season as well.
That's fantastic. Broncos fans will be happy to hear about that. We were just showing photos, and one of them was of safety T.J. Ward. I know you guys have been teammates for a long time. He was a big locker room presence. I'm just curious, were you more surprised that Ward was released or that Brock Osweiler is now back with the Broncos?
Both of them are surprising. I think having Brock Osweiler back with the Denver Broncos is excellent. We won a lot of games when he was here. I didn't want him to leave at all. So, and then when he left and he went to the Texans, I thought he was going to have an amazing year with the Texans. Him and DeAndre Hopkins just seemed for sure to me. And it didn't work out that way. He went to the Browns. It didn't work out there as well. And he came back to the Denver Broncos. Just to have his energy in the locker room on the football field is amazing. Like I said before, we won a lot of games in 2015. With Brock, it was a great year for the whole entire organization, and it's great to have Brock back.
His energy coming back, have you seen any bounce off from when he was there last time? I mean, is there any awkwardness when he walks into the locker room, or is it going to be business as usual?
I mean, it felt like we just resumed business as usual. When he was here, he had this. All quarterbacks have this aura about him, and Brock definitely has that. To have his energy back inside the locker room, just knowing that he was in the locker room, knowing he's on a practice football field, it was great for us. It's still Trev's team. This is Trev's team. He worked hard, for his situation. He's a great quarterback. He did a lot of great things for us last year, and I feel like he improved on everything that he's done last year, and we're going to win a lot of games because of Trev this year. This is Trev's team, of course. Paxton Lynch, he's getting healthy right now, but to have Brock Osweiler back in the locker room, back with the organization is wonderful as well.
Vaughn, you sound really optimistic, and I would expect nothing less as the season is about to get going. But I'm just curious, the defense is built into this all-world defense, yet the offense is still answering the same questions or attempting to answer the same questions going back to after you guys won the Super Bowl. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is there something, though, frustrating about the fact that that position has not been resolved yet for you guys?
No, I mean, it's part of the National Football League. Every team, it's not going to be smooth for, every team on teams. I'm talking about special teams and, offense and defense. Sometimes we struggle offense. They have our back. Sometimes the offensive, scheme, it might struggle and we have their back. And sometimes, special teams will bail us both out. So that's part of, playing in the National Football League. You just gotta keep going. I think, Demaryius Thomas is gonna have a great year. Emmanuel Sanders is gonna have a great year. We got great tight ends with Virgil Green and Jeff Heuerman and A.J. Darby. I think all those guys are gonna be great. Our offensive line is 10 times better than what it was last year. To have, Gary Bowles and Miller Watson, at the tackle positions, that's an upgrade for us. Gary Bowles is a rookie, but he certainly doesn't play like that. And I can tell you, I go against him every day in practice, and he's advanced beyond this year. So having him, in the AFC West is going to save us a whole bunch of games.
Of course, anytime a team adds a QB, the conversation about Colin Kaepernick comes up. What do you think about him still not having a job?
I think he definitely should be in the National Football League. It's not 64 quarterbacks that's better than him. And I feel like in the National Football League, that's what it's about. It's about, can you play, or what can you do for me? And it's not 64 quarterbacks that's better than Colin Kaepernick. That's just cut and dry. That's just plain and simple. He should be in the National Football League. No matter about anything. It's Colin Kaepernick should be in the National Football League. He can definitely play in the National Football League.
Do you think Kaepernick would have been a good fit with the Broncos?
Oh, I guess so. He could come and play. He's a good fit. With 75% of the teams in the National Football League. He can throw the ball. He's active in the pocket. He can expand the pocket. He can throw the ball downfield. He has accuracy. He has everything that you asked out of a quarterback.
So do you think the reason he doesn't have a job is because of the protests?
I don't know. I mean, it's. I mean, that's a question that all the players in the National Football League have been trying to answer. I don't know. I feel like he should definitely be in the National Football League, though.
Vaughn, appreciate you answering those questions. I want to switch to a little bit of a different topic here. We know that you're a big basketball fan. We've seen you courtside at several NBA games. So we're curious to get your thoughts on whether the Cavs should go all in this year. Should they trade the first-round pick they just acquired from Boston, or should they be planning more for the future in case LeBron leaves?
I mean, that is another tough question. I mean, I know, LeBron leave. I mean, you can't. There's no way you can plan for that. That's tougher than, the question that you asked me before. But I feel like they were close last year. They were close last year. They made they've made some moves that put them back in contention this year. I think getting Isaiah Thomas healthy would be great for the organization. Isaiah Thomas, Derrick Rose, and LeBron James would be great. So yeah, I mean, I don't think they should go in all. I don't think they should go all in yet. I mean, we still gotta. I don't know. LeBron. I'm hoping LeBron to stay. So I think they should just continue to build around him.
I like that you thought that the Cavaliers question was a tougher one to answer than the Colin Kaepernick question, which is, different, obviously very different reasons. Let's talk about you teaming up with Old Spice, shall we? They are known for their very creative advertisements. So I'm curious, what was the best part about making this campaign?
Just the production days and, the creativity involved, with working with Old Spice, what they do, who they are, the creative behind everything. It's perfect for my personality and who I am. And I'm here, promoting the Invisible Spray. It's a spray that you could just, spray. It's for guys like me. You could just spray it on. It's nice and delicate on the skin. So it's a wonderful new product. It's been a great, run with Old Spice, and I'm excited to be with those guys for a second year.
Who is your worst smelling teammate and your best smelling opponent?
Oh, I mean, I think, after playing in the National Football League, after playing in games in the National Football League, nobody's smelling great, on the football field, including myself. But the worst, smelling opponent, a worst smelling teammate, it'd probably, have to be, who am I going to put this on? It'd have to be Garrett Bowles, the rookie. I spent a lot of time going against him. On the football field, so I can tell you firsthand that he's pretty smelly.
And he's a rookie, so he really can't say anything back to you. Of course, to watch the new Old Spice TV spots, fans can go to Old Spice's YouTube channel. It's it's a really interesting ad. It's a lot of fun to watch. Final one before you go for us, Vaughn. You always do very unique things in the off season. I'm just curious, is there anything different, a new experience that you had that you've never had before this offseason?
This offseason, I got to travel a lot. I went overseas. I went to United Kingdom. I went to Paris. I went to Germany and all of these spots. I went to the Drake tour, the Drake world tour overseas, and it was great. I've never really been to a concert like that. So the experience, the Boy Meets World tour, and in about 20 different places, 20 different shows, 40 nights overseas. It was amazing.
That's incredible. What's the coolest thing you saw on that tour? What's the best memory you have from that? It's so interesting.
I think just being in Oberhausen, Germany, with 20,000 fans, and everyone knows the words to Drake's songs. It was amazing to me. To experience greatness. To watch greatness. It doesn't matter if it's on the basketball court, with LeBron and KD and, all of those guys and Steph Curry, or, in the stadium, watching, Drake perform to, witness greatness. It's always something that you can take for that.
Wow, that's amazing. That very cool experience. Thank you, Vaughn Miller, for joining us on behalf of Old Spice. Of course, you can watch the Old Spice TV spots by going to Old Spice's YouTube channel, and we'd encourage you to do it. Thank you, Vaughn.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you very much. Interesting. I want to go on Drake's tour. Okay. Meanwhile, the Cavaliers and the Celtics trade went through, Robin, despite questions about Isaiah Thomas's hip. Now the Cavs are reportedly shopping that 2018 first-round pick that they got from the Boston Celtics. Should the Cavs, though, should they consider going all in this year, trying to get something for that pick, as opposed to waiting to see if LeBron's going to leave and then potentially using the pick?
Absolutely. I think for 3 reasons you go all in right now. One, it's the best way to keep LeBron, right? The best way to keep LeBron around is to put a team that can compete for the championship around him. Number two, your best chance to win a championship is right now. Isn't that what we do it for, right? Isn't that why you play the games? So try to construct that roster. It may be impossible because of the monster that is Golden State, but if there is a team that can get there, it is Cleveland. And if there is an asset that can help them get there, it is that pick. I would consider packaging it with Kevin Love to see what the market could bring. And then finally, I don't think that Brooklyn pick is going to be as low as some others. Not that they're going to be world beaters or anything, but I could see that pick falling somewhere between like 7 and 10 rather than 1 and 5. And if that's the case, it's not quite as valuable an asset as it's been made out to be.
Yeah, it's very different if you're picking outside. I'll just say the top 5. I think that you have to learn from something that Danny Ainge did really well, which was, the picks lose value once you actually use them. They gain value once you can be moving them around. And I agree with you that going in this year, even if you are including the pick in a deal, which you would have to do, that doesn't necessarily mean you're mortgaging your future in some kind of way. In fact, I think it makes you even a little bit more flexible because now you're bringing back actual pieces that you can use, and it's not like they go away if LeBron decides to go to Los Angeles. Then you just have to go back to the drawing board. But I think what you want to avoid if you're Cleveland would probably be totally bottoming out if LeBron leaves. You want to be able to be left with something, right? As opposed to having to start completely over, which they already had to do once, and it had no success whatsoever. And it took the best player in the world having to come home to make them into championship contenders.
They have one real roster flaw that stands out to me, and that is defense in the perimeter area at the guards. You can't have Derrick Rose, and you don't even know what Isaiah Thomas's status is, despite the fact that he's not a good defensive player anyway. Those are the places I think they need to address, and the only way really for them to address it would be shopping that pick.
Yeah, Thomas, they're saying, might not be ready till February. And even if that is taking a very conservative view, what are you going to do between now and then? I know it's a long season, and I know the playoffs are really when it matters, but do you not want to understand your full complement or even be anywhere near full strength until the All-Star break?
I guess if you're looking at it very optimistically, it means he'll be fresh for the playoffs. Meanwhile, Ronda Rousey had a confrontation with the WWE's 4 horsewomen at the Mae Young Classic. This may signal her official WWE superstar career is imminent. Our Facebook question today has been, would you rather see Ronda Rousey or Conor McGregor in the squared circle?
I'm going to go Ronda on this one because I think that she has more options in terms of who she can take on in the WWE. You could see her, obviously wrestling against other women. You could see maybe some tag team matches. Maybe she gets an alliance with someone. I can see her having just more flexibility than Conor. Conor's not going to be able to wrestle against 2/3 of the roster on the men's side. It's going to have to be something very specific where he carves out a niche, where he gets something going with one guy or maybe 2, because he just don't have the amount of body types like Conor's in the WWE.
See, Conor's promo game, though, I think is more WWE ready than Rousey's. The advantage Rousey has is she's been away for a while, so there's a little bit of a mystery. With Conor McGregor, we just saw him lose to Floyd Mayweather. You sort of forget with time what happened to Rousey last time she was in the octagon, or the last couple times she was out there.
Do you even think, the WWE has obviously become, they're an incredible, huge corporation. They're in some ways very family friendly nowadays as opposed to maybe 10 years ago. They've had to really change a lot of the things they do. Is Conor too much for them? Is he going to have to dial it back a little bit?
Yeah, what does the clean version of a Conor McGregor promo sound like? That's what you're asking, right?
The radio version.
Yeah, you play it with the kids. You got to get the clean version, spin around in the RAV4 and see how it sounds.
What Kanye would say about that. All right, the U.S. men's national team lost to Costa Rica over the weekend. Coach Bruce Arena believes that Latin American teams are motivated to beat the U.S. because of the tightening of the U.S. immigration policy. Robin, is Arena on the nose here, or is he potentially making excuses for why teams are beating the United States?
I think the latter is the way it's going to be taken. I don't know how these teams feel. They would be certainly justified if that's their individual feelings, given some of the policies, but we haven't heard that from them. So until that point, it's just speculation. When it comes from him, fresh off a loss to a Central American country in Costa Rica, it does feel a little bit like sour grapes, even if there is validity to the root issue.
I'm just wondering, how would he know this is true? You know, are there players who are saying things to him on the sidelines? Are there signs in the arena or things like that where you can tell that the fan base has this specific axe to grind with the United States and is therefore maybe rooting even more fervently against the U.S. men's national team? I just don't know. It does a little bit seem like it's almost like a half excuse. It's like we are getting everyone's best effort when maybe before the United States perhaps wasn't getting everyone's best effort. Now they're all in. It just doesn't seem like something you can prove. So I'm not sure why Arena would say it unless he's running a major misdirection here and trying to keep the headlines from being, oh man, the coaching may not have been the best ever against Costa Rica. Instead, we're going to focus in on something else. It's a dicey game to play, though, because now you're bringing in politics. Now you're potentially alienating parts of your own fan base, maybe. I don't know if I'd keep going down that road if I were him, if I didn't have actual proof.
Meanwhile, the Ball family may have been the only people who saw the second episode of Ball in the Family, as the Facebook show reportedly only retained 10% of the audience from its premiere. Was this to be expected, considering the way it was kind of marketed?
I think so. I think it's to be expected, but I still think it can pick back up. They just need a little more star power. Maybe we're learning that just the balls isn't enough. Like, we need to see Magic Johnson and Lonzo have their first meeting. Maybe we need Kobe Bryant to appear out of somewhere. We need a new storyline.
We need Nas to show up and challenge some of Lonzo Ball's rap opinions. That's what we need.
That would be perfect. I don't know if Nas would, I don't want to say stoop so low. I don't know if Nas is making an appearance on that show, but I think we just need a new storyline, because that's the one thing with the balls where it's brilliant, but it also has a shelf life, right? Because we just hear so much from them. We get satiated, I think, at points with like, all right, we don't want to hear anything more from them. They need to like drip, drip, drip out a little bit more of that news, I think, to sort of keep us engaged. But the first episode, I watched it. I thought it was very compelling.
Meanwhile, Sports Illustrated actually stopped by LaMelo's 16th birthday party this week, and LaVar was his typical braggadocious self. Here's our Kara Klantz asking about his footwear of choice.
Zoe has a shoe, Melo has a shoe.
Yes.
Whose shoe are you wearing?
Whose shoe am I wearing? Stay tuned for a new shoe called the LaVar Richie. How's that?
So, okay, that actually was one of my questions. Has that ever crossed your mind? Is there
It's
any
crossing my
possibility?
mind. I might come out with a shoe like that where all y'all look back and say, wow. But if you think the LaVar Richie comes out, it ain't gonna be $500. More like $1,500, $2,000.
Seems like a joke, but would a $1,500 LaVar shoe surprise you? Would you be copping them?
No, no.
Sounds like a heel, right? That's not like a...
Yeah, well, LaVar coming out with a women's line, I don't think it's happening anytime soon.
That's true. He should probably stay somewhere.
Maybe,
right?
stay somewhere in his lane when it comes to shoes. Now, listen, am I going to be shocked that LaVar is going to buy the shoe? But no, LaVar can't. LaVar wearing the shoe doesn't matter. The only reason why any of this is working is because Lonzo's actually really awesome at basketball, was the new number 2 overall pick, will be starting for the Lakers this year, and then we'll see if they can improve on the dreadful season from a year ago. That's the only reason why the shoes are working. Nobody cares what LaVar is wearing. I mean, we care a little about what he's doing and saying, but we definitely don't care about what he's wearing.
I have to give him a little bit of credit that we're still talking about him, that, his brand is still out there. So as much as he may have been dismissed as a joke, it's not a one-time punchline. It's something that's getting brought back.
No, and I think that when we look back on LaVar, we are going to see that he was a trailblazer in some ways. I mean, I think that he isn't doing it perfectly, but then again, the first people to do it generally are not. But he has taken on the shoe company and trying to change that paradigm, which I think is incredibly commendable. I mean, I just hope that he's not doing anything to jeopardize LaMelo's potential, NCAA eligibility, because that would be really sad, unfortunately. But so far, everything's by the book. No rules have been broken yet. I just don't know what LaVar Arici is a combo of. Is it Z Cavarici?
Is it like
because all that
Gucci or
90s
something?
stuff is back.
Gucci, Da Vinci, Ricci. I don't know. You're asking me. Now I'm out of my lane. I don't know what lane to even go in. What lane in the store?
Yeah, the high-end luxury goods. Yeah, there'll be LaVar at the duty-free store. Robin, that's going to do it for us. We're back from vacation. So glad you could be with us. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, with a whole new segment about LaVar Ball. I'm just kidding. Stay tuned to SI.com for all the latest news and headlines. Follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. We'll post clips from the show right there after this.
He could come out with like first-class shoes and put them right next to Coach. Oh, sorry.